Hi, and welcome to Cosmic Diaries. This is Priya Kale, and today I am sitting out on my porch. It's a gorgeous day, so I thought I'd try recording out here. It's beautiful. So, here we are. We're almost at the solstice now. It's the 19th of June as I'm recording, and the moon has just entered Aries, and in 2 days, on the 21st of June, we reach the summer solstice here in the northern hemisphere and the winter solstice in the southern hemisphere. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about the solstices and how they and their significance astrologically and understanding how they work and play out in your life. Solstices occur twice a year, so you have the June solstice, which is right now, when in the northern hemisphere the sun has reached its zenith and the days are peaking. So we have the longest day of the year on the 21st of June this year, which is the day of the solstice. And then the days start to get shorter progressively over the next 6 months until we reach December, marking the winter solstice here in the northern hemisphere. And then after the winter solstice, the days start getting longer again. And the reverse is the case for the southern hemisphere. So after the solstice, it's winter in the southern hemisphere right now. So after the solstice, the days are going to start getting longer again as the southern hemisphere moves towards the summer. It's a tipping point. Where equinoxes will bring things to a balance, where the days and nights are of equal length. Solstices, it's usually, like in this case, we're going to have the longest day of the year and then the shortest night of the year, opposite in the southern hemisphere. Longest night of the year and then the shortest day of the year. And so, as I mentioned earlier, solstices will bring a tipping point. So, look at your life right now. What's been unfolding in your life? A situation has gone as far as it could in one direction, in a sense, and now you're gonna start moving down to regain a balance. Also, this solstice comes with the sun entering Cancer, and over the next 4 weeks, as the sun moves through Cancer, look at the part of your chart that's ruled by Cancer. Of course, if you are a Cancer, this is the sun coming home to your sign. So it's a rebirth, it's your birthday season, it's the time of your solar return. It's a personal new start, a personal reset button for the year. So now would be a helpful time for, especially if you are a Cancerian, to reflect back on your past year especially as the sun makes its way through the final few days of Gemini and then before the new moon in Cancer. It would be a good time to reflect on your life and reflect over the past year, see how far you've come, release what you need to so you can rebirth and start again. And even if you aren't a Cancer or born under the sign of Cancer or have Cancer rising, which is then you'll feel it very personally as well. Even then, this is a helpful time to look at where you have Cancer in your chart, and that's where there's a sense of something rebirthing now. And then as you start to follow the cycles, and I mean, I'll be doing more of these videos as well, but as you start to follow cycles, no matter what sign you are, you're going to start to recognize the patterns and seasons of your life. Where every time the sun comes around to the sign of Cancer, for example, you're going to see similar themes or certain situations play out, certain energy play out. And then how are you evolving as the years go by? Every time the earth goes around the sun, you make that turn around the sun. How are you growing? How is your light growing? How is your consciousness growing? So you can refine that energy within yourself. So now, as the sun makes its way through Cancer, Cancer is a sign that rules the mother, the child, the womb, your sense of security, which is emotional security as well as your financial and material security. So, your food, shelter, your basic necessities, your needs. Um, And these are the themes that will likely be coming up over the next 4 weeks. And of course, depending on, again, where you have Cancer in your chart, you will see it play out. But on a deeper level, to gain a little more insight into the energy of Cancer, I'm going to keep it short. But Cancer is a sign that's ruled by the moon. The moon rules our emotions. And if we look at the moon is always changing faces. It's That's why Cancerians, and Cancer is also the sign that rules the ocean. It's a sign that rules our emotions, which is water in its base form. I mean, think about it. The moon affects the tides. We human beings are made of 90% water. So it affects us. For anyone who says that astrology doesn't work or the planetary motions do not affect us, they just haven't observed it in their life. And that's okay. It's not necessary for you to believe, or anyone to believe, in astrology. It works if you can apply it to your life, and if you can use that awareness to, in a way that it betters your life, great. It's just one way. But anyway, I digress. Coming back to the moon is the ruling planet of Cancer. And the moon rules, as I said, the mother, our needs, our emotional nature, which is like the ocean. The waves are always crashing and ebbing and flowing. But how do you then not react to triggered emotional responses and the surface emotional waves, but go down deep to the bottom of the sea, to the depth of your emotions where it's calm? And then you can respond to life. And of course, again, this is Cancer, so Cancer being the sign of emotions. We, as human beings, spend half of our life, and while the sun is still in Gemini, I'm saying this, we spend half of our life avoiding pain or dividing life into good or bad. And we don't want to experience the bad, we want to experience only the good. And in reality, there is no good or bad. That's just a division of the mind, because everything that is so called good has another side to it. It just depends on how you see it. So, there is no division other than in the mind. And then when we have emotions, emotions of sadness, or perhaps even more difficult emotions, right from the time we're children, we're allowed to be happy, but nobody wants to see you cry. Of course, it's out of a concern and a care, but still, that emotion of sadness is never released fully. And this goes on as we grow to be adults. We never really release our sadness. We'll allow ourselves to feel it to a certain extent, but then we'll suppress it, or we'll, divert our mind. And, for example, positive thinking, which is, you know, I know everybody talks about it, but really it's kind of the worst, because it only suppresses an emotional response or reaction or release. You're not allowing that emotion to cycle through. Again, Cancer is about cycles, the cycles of the moon. You're not allowing this emotion to cycle through and be released. So, over the next 4 weeks, and whenever the sun moves through Cancer, it's really, especially now over the next 4 weeks, because of the aspects in the sky and this final Grand Cross move. It's like, labor pains. We're giving birth now. As that happens, it's really important that you go deep to the surface of these emotional responses that are being triggered, so you don't project them on your current life. And you can then separate the past from the present, and then, as a result, not relive it unconsciously. So that's one thing about Cancer. The other thing about Cancer, another thing to remember, is Cancer is a cardinal sign. So it's a sign that begins seasons. Again, it's a solstice. So, and solstice, another thing I think I forgot to mention, is uh, the translation of solstice, sol being sun, and stis is when the sun is standing still. So these days of the solstice, it's like the sun is standing still in the sky from our perspective. There's a sense that we're getting a burning like the spotlight is shining bright in a particular area of the sky, and a situation is gathering critical mass and is tipping over, and now we're entering a whole new season. So, as you move through this period, it will call for sensitivity with yourself, with others, um, but also understanding that you alone are responsible for your needs. And another quick word, of course, as you can see, we have a change of scenery. I was about just editing this video and I remembered one more thing, which is look, Cancer comes down to your sense of security, as I mentioned, your emotional and material security. So, your food, shelter, basic necessities. And it also represents your childhood. So, the kind of nurturing that someone got as a child, received as a child, and not everybody is fortunate enough to have a caring family. There are many children and many of us who grow up without a family or have a family but don't have the sense of closeness or intimacy with their family or that sense of support. So, but what we can remember when the sun is moving through Cancer is the past is not the present. You are not a child anymore. So, yes, you may not have experienced the most comfortable childhood, perhaps, but still today you are an adult and you can take responsibility for your life and you do not need to continue to be triggered by those past experiences. So, and also when it comes to your emotional needs, which is what I was saying earlier, which is only you can be responsible for your needs. When it's the time to rise above your insecurities, or at least recognize them and take responsibility for them. Because the moment you start expecting another person to fulfill your needs, that's when you enter choppy waters, which is Cancer again. So, yeah, I'll stop here for now, as or I could go on forever. I'm sure there's a lot more that I could say to you, and there is a lot more I can say to you. But for that, just check in with the blog. I'll be updating the blog regularly, and you can read more about Cancer, your horoscopes, and do sign up for the subscriber service. I'll add a link to that below as well, so you can stay on top of your current astrology and receive your current horoscopes as well. But um, yeah, and I've written a lot about what's coming up in the next few days, depending on when you're seeing this. Mars Uranus opposition comes up on the 25th of June. 23rd of June, Venus is changing signs into Gemini. Then we have a new moon on the 27th of June. So I've written a lot about these aspects I've interpreted these aspects in detail in the Sagittarius full moon report. So I'll add a link to that. Do check that out. But yeah, thanks for listening as always. Stay tuned. I'll be back with more. Ta-da.